I wanted to make this video to let people know why we shouldn't trust liberal scholarship, meaning, scholarship that tries to knock down the Bible, say it's not reliable, that sort of thing. And I know what some people might say when they hear this. They might say, well, who's this guy? This guy is not no scholar. No, I'm not a scholar. All I ever did, I passed a few online courses in biblical studies. But I'm going to be giving information written by scholars. Liberal scholars, for a long time, they said that Moses couldn't have wrote the first 5 books of the Bible because writing wasn't around back then. They assured people of that. And through archaeology, they found the Black Stela and the Ebla tablets, proving that writing was around a few hundred years before Moses, before the Exodus. They assured people that there was no sophisticated religious law code around in Moses' time, and that they found through archaeology they found the Code of Hammurabi and the Rosh Hashanah tablets. Liberal scholars used to say for years that in Luke 3:1, where he refers to Licinius being a tetrarch at Abilene in about AD 27, Luke was wrong. But then an inscription was later found from the time of Tiberius, from AD 14 to 37, which names Licinius as a tetrarch at Abilene near Damascus. There were 2 government officials named Licinius. For a long time, liberal scholars said that John was wrong because John said that Jesus healed a man by the pool of Bethsaida that had 5 porticles, and that wasn't found at that time, but later on it was. The conquest of Jericho. I wanted to read something from one of my favorite books, The Stones Cry Out, written by a theologian and archaeologist, Randall Price. On page 143, British archaeologists John and J.B.E. Garstang seem to have confirmed beyond doubt the biblical destruction of what was known as the 4th city of Jericho. Included in this report was what was reported to be photographs of the very walls that had collapsed when the Israelites blasted the trumpets. These photos were accompanied by Garstang's declaration that there is no difficulty now in understanding the note of confident faith which breathes in every line in the Bible narrative. After that, there was an archaeologist named Kathleen Kenyon, and she excavated, and based on what she did not find, she said that the conquest didn't happen when the Bible, the internal chronometer of the Bible says that it happened. So based on that, many liberal scholars, just threw that out the window as far as the conquest of Jericho. I wanted to read something from page 152 of Stones Cry Out. Kenyon based her dating on what she did not find, that is, imported Cypriot pottery. Wood, on the other hand, has analyzed the local Canaanite pottery excavated by the various expeditions to Jericho. His analysis indicates that Jericho was destroyed around 1400 BC, the end of the late Bronze period, rather than 1550 as claimed by Kenyon. What is more, Wood has shown that once the destruction is correctly dated, the archaeological evidence harmonizes perfectly with the biblical record. In the 1800s, the Amarna letters were found, hundreds of clay tablets. I wanted to read something from page 241 of a book that I just got finished reading not too long ago, the Popular Handbook of Archaeology and the Bible. It's really awesome stuff. Critics of the Bible previously believed that Canaan was not settled earlier during the patriarchal period, and therefore Joshua could not have conquered fortified cities like Jericho at Ai centuries later. However, The Amarna letters ended this debate with their descriptions of villages, towns, camps, cities, provinces, and fortifications, as well as a thriving architectural production. Third, many of the people groups described in the Bible have been identified in these letters. These include the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, Egyptians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, to name a few. Critical scholars used to say that the Hittites, which the Bible mentions them nearly 50 times, that they never exist. They were legend. And then it was the discovery of stone structures and the Hittite Royal Library, which pretty much dismantled that. They found over 10,000 clay tablets that was pivotal in establishing their existence. Critical scholars used to say that Daniel was mythological embellishment, and King Belshazzar didn't even exist, they said, because there was no extra biblical evidence that mentioned him as being part of the Chaldean dynasty. Then a cylinder was found with his name on it. Actually, they found also a stone inscription mentioning King Nebuchadnezzar. The Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls is probably one of the most important things in biblical archaeology in modern times. A young boy threw a rock into a cave at Qumran. He heard something crash, and they found these jars with manuscripts in them. They found fragments of every Old Testament book except for Esther, and there were some of the fragments that were found were Exodus and Samuel. That was dated to 250 and 225 BC. Now, the cool thing about this is that before the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947, the earliest Hebrew manuscripts of the Old Testament was the Aleppo Codex, and that was from 935 AD, in the 10th century, so far removed from when they were originally written. So people would say, how could we know that if that wasn't changed, altered over time? But the Dead Sea Scrolls, they found Old Testament documents that were way hundreds of years, over 1,000 years earlier than what we originally had. One of the biggest finding in that was they call it the Great Isaiah Scroll, a full copy of Isaiah, and that was dated to the year 125 BC. Liberal scholars also used to say that King David never existed. Then in the 90s, they found a stone inscription that made reference to the House of David. It was an inscription that was a memorial to King Hazael, king of Syria. The inscription is called the Tel Dan Stela. The flood, Noah, the flood. If a worldwide flood happened, we should expect that there were cultures all over the place that had to have wrote about it. Even, pagan cultures, adapting that into their, pagan mythologies. And actually, that's what we do have. We have, there's been writings that were found, some writings that were called the Atrahasis epic and the Gilgamesh epic. Other references to the flood have been found in the literature of nearly 24 cultures, including Greek, Mexican, Hawaiian, Babylonian, Sumerian, Indian, and Chinese traditions. I want to read something from the popular handbook of archaeology in the Bible real quick. In reference to the Weld-Blundell prism. In 1922, English archaeologist Herbert Weld-Blundell led an expedition to Larsa, Iraq, where he discovered an ancient clay prism containing a list of Sumerian kings who ruled from 3200 BC to 1800 BC. The text makes reference to the kings who ruled before the flood and after the flood. What is more, the list supports the Genesis account by describing extremely long lifespans prior to the flood. That kind of is really awesome. I encourage you to read read about that. Again, that's the popular handbook of archaeology in the Bible. Really good stuff. William Ramsay. William Ramsay. He was an archaeologist that listened to the critics of his day, where they said that the New Testament wasn't historically reliable. This was before a lot of archaeological research was even done on that, and so he pretty much set out on a quest to prove that true, to prove that the New Testament is not historically reliable, and he specifically concentrated on the writings of Luke, specifically the book of Acts, and these expeditions went on for years, and it says that he carefully examined 32 countries, around 50 cities, and 9 islands, finding not a single mistake. I think that's really cool. That's William Ramsay, if you want to look him up. What is the importance of this? The importance of this is that before Jesus was born, God sent prophets, and they made prophecies, and most of them were about Israel, but they made prophecies about a Messiah, and in the New Testament, Jesus fulfilled those prophecies of the Messiah. And what Jesus taught in the New Testament was very important, because he taught that it's only by choosing him as the Lord and Master of your life that you will be saved and go to heaven. Jesus talked about hell. He said it's a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth, where the worm never dies, where the fire is never quenched. He said it's eternal punishment and outer darkness. Book of Revelations, Book of Revelation. Book of Revelation speaks about hell. It says it's a lake of fire that burns with brimstone. God is a holy God, and the Bible teaches that he's so holy that if we break one of his commands, we're guilty of them all. That's how holy he is. It says that his wrath is on all ungodliness, and since all of us sinned, all of us are guilty of hell, according to his judgments, according to his holiness. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one will come to the Father but through me, in John 14:6. If it says, if we believe in our heart that Jesus was raised from the dead, if we confess that with our mouth, then we'll be saved. So that's the importance of this, and why we shouldn't trust liberal scholarship, because they have been proven wrong over and over and over again. I'm sorry, I forgot to read some of the things that William Ramsay proved. William Ramsay proved liberal scholars to be wrong on. Critics used to say, reference to William Ramsay, there was no Roman census, as indicated in Luke 2:1. Ramsay discovered there was a Roman census every 14 years, beginning with Emperor Augustus. Quirinius was not, liberal scholars thought that Quirinius was not governor of Syria at the time of Jesus' birth, as indicated in Luke chapter 2, verse 2. Ramsay discovered that Quirinius was governor of Syria in about 7 BC. Critics thought that people did not have to return to their ancestral home, as indicated in Luke chapter 2, verse 3. Ramsay discovered that people did have to return to their home, verified by an ancient Egyptian papyrus giving directions for conducting a census. The critical scholars thought that the existence of a treasurer of the city of Corinth, Erastus, was incorrect. That's in Romans chapter 16, verse 23. Ramsay discovered a city pavement in Corinth bearing the inscription, Erastus, Currier of public buildings, laid this pavement at his own expense. The critical scholars believe that Luke's reference to Gallio as proconsul of Achaia was wrong in Acts chapter 18 verse 12. Ramsey discovered the Delphi inscription that reads, "As Lucius Junius Gallio, my friend and proconsul of Achaia." So I just wanted to give people some examples why liberal scholarship that's against the Bible should not be taken serious, because they have been proven to be wrong over and over again.